All right, let's get to our next segment, and that is Let Me Micksplain. We're going to explain cancellations and when canceling goes too far. But we're not going to do it from the perspective of hanging out or whatever. We're just going to do it from the perspective of movies and things like that. Because it has come to my attention when it comes to cancellation and canceling things. Like, to start off, let me just say, I understand the culture of canceling. I understand a culture of a Justice Department, and not just here, but all over the world, that Justice Departments and justice and governments that and their justice systems are not fulfilling things we need and or creating justice in any way in a lot of instances. So canceling became a thing when the internet came out. Of course, this is Let Me Explain. That's why I'm explaining it to you. But when you get down to it, when have we gone too far? When have we gone overboard? We're now canceling things. We're essentially the ones who are going out saying, all right, this is canceled, it's done for justice, this, that, or the other thing. We are essentially getting to a point in our lives where it's almost, in some cases, starting to look similar to like a book burning or things like that. People are going to be pissed off when I say that. Why? Because when you compare anything to something they don't like, they're automatically angry. But when your movement is how now muddied the waters for so long, or you have allowed people who follow your movement to muddy those waters, and that is using social media as a weapon, as more than a way to seek justice when you can't find it other places and such. And of course, this is interactive, so please feel free. What if you canceling? Well, then I don't know, Dan. What am I supposed to do then? Am I supposed to just twist my... No, I am doing that though. I'm getting a handlebar. But no, you should. I think it's going too far. I think holding people accountable, exposing wrongdoings is one thing. But how far do we keep going? Now, I talked about the Danny Masterson, That 70s Show controversy. I think I called it the 70s controversy in one of my Let Me Explains. So you can go back and check that out. But I also want to talk about the idea of the news cycle just being about the cancellation. This is, for me, when it goes too far. When the media is finally reporting on these things, but in a way to it's not like they're not reporting on it in a way where it's actually news. They're reporting on it in a way where it's actually like, ooh, somebody will watch us if we report on this. And anytime the media start doing that, I have to take a really hard look at whatever they're like supporting or they're shining a light on. Yeah, in the grand scheme of the 24-hour news cycle. So with cancellations being what they are and kind of popping up the way they are, and I want to talk about the Ashton Kutcher one. Like, now, 50 celebrities wrote letters on behalf of a rapist. And again, we've talked about this. I'm not going to refer to him as anything else but that's what he is. I think my biggest problem with this is we are treating the people who wrote the letters the same as we're treating the rapist. And why are we doing this? We're looking for things. This cancellation has gotten us to a point where a lot of people online are looking for content to pump out and to put out on TikTok, on Twitter, or wherever else. And what's the best way to do that? Try and take somebody down. It gets you your 15 minutes. We see it. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't people who need to be taken down, especially when justice isn't doing its job. And I'm not even saying that I support Ashton or Mila or any of the other 50 that wrote a letter. We've already talked about this on the show quite a bit. Like, the only time I'm ever going to write a letter is if it's one of my sons. And that's for me to ask the judge, can I still see him? Can I still hug him? Can I still be in there, his life? God forbid that ever happen. Like, just to help kind of correct whatever he's done wrong or whatever actions he's taken and stuff like that, the best I can, even later. And that's the extent of where my letter is going to go in situations like this. Now, but do I get the idea of, a friend of yours for years and years and years, 20, 25 years, did something horrific and is a terrible person, and I'm not taking that away from him at all, but you write the letter. Maybe you're conflicted. Maybe you don't know what's what. Maybe there's a million things. There's a lot of reasons you could have written a letter. And it seems to me the most popular one now is that Ashton Kutcher is exactly the same or has been covering up for years. And we don't know that. And I think that's where the cancellation goes too far. We're getting to a point where we're canceling people because they're associated with other people we don't like. And honestly, it's becoming about not liking anymore or doing something that you don't like. you don't like this person, or you don't like their music, you don't like their acting, or whatever else, you don't like their content. And they said this 20 years ago when it was socially acceptable to say something. Now, I'm not saying really racist things or anything like that, but like there are some things that were socially acceptable 20 years ago that are not now, and people are still attacking social media tweets or whatever if they said it in your book, or who the fuck cares. But it happens. And the longer I go on, it's like disgusting to me kind of where it's going, because now it's trying to change history. And I think this is where my biggest problem comes in with it, is now you can just say anything or take anything and twist it and use it against. And that's disgusting enough as it is. That means you are not moral people of high integrity. You are, if people are doing that, especially if they're doing it to try and get up on one another, like somebody seeking justice and not being able to find it, victims of assault, of rape, things like that, victims of murder, victims of really true, honest victims, not somebody who was mad because a celebrity didn't give them an autograph outside of a supermarket. And now you just want to talk about how they're Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. Like, shut up. Stop pretending to be a sleuth and coming up with whatever asinine things you want. But above all else, stop canceling things. Stop canceling parts of our history. Stop trying to get movies completely shut out. Stop trying to get books completely shut out, music completely shut out. Because for something, maybe R. Kelly should never walk the streets again. I don't know. I'm not a judge. I don't think he should. It's disgusting. But do we really erase him from history? Is that what we do? Do we erase everything he's ever worked on? Do we erase everything that maybe his songs are attached to? How far does it go? And I'm using him as an example, but we're doing a lighter stuff. Like, he's probably the one where it's like, I don't know, maybe. This isn't a good argument, but like, we're doing it with lighter things. We're doing it with things that, had racial connotations back in the 20s and 30s. Of course it did. Of course it did. And it should be there. We should see this. Like, we're in a desperate fight to get critical race theory to stay in schools, or even in some cases just show up in schools finally. And then we're on another fight where it's, okay, but this movie's got to go. We don't like it. It's offensive. When do we stop that? How far does this go? When do we get to Logan's Run? When do we get to a point where the rich people who are fighting everybody on the cancellations and saying you're all wrong, but are using the same tactics and everything against you, the ones who control the country, are going to turn around and say, well, let's let them cancel. Let's let them dig deeper. Let's let them erase history. Let's let them do all of these things and then figure out how to make money on it and control it, which is basically how it always goes. Now, I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist here or anything like that, but the truth of the matter is, when it comes to cancellations and it comes to canceling anybody or anything, if we don't start being smart about it, it's going to blow up in our faces terribly, terribly. I am all for it. Listen, there are people I meet in life who, sorry, I just can't have anything to do with you. You're a terrible person. I just can't. But I don't have anything to do with you. And I can't shut you down. I don't have an interest in canceling you. I don't, like, if you are out there hurting people, I will make sure I bring the law into it. But canceling, we're not regulating it, and it's going overboard, and it's becoming a problem, and it's affecting a lot, and it's going to draw more lines in the sands than I think anybody truly realizes, because you're going after anybody. Now, I understand going after the celebrities, taking them down a peg, because there are some that really need to be taken down a peg. But do we need to cancel them, tell them they can't ever work again? I get the Harvey Weinstein. I get those guys. But man, we've been going after everyone. We went after Taika Waititi, for God's sake, because he sat on a chair with two single women, two actresses who were single, and we went after him and tried to cancel him. It's just getting ridiculous. It really is just becoming so stupid. And I think it's going too far, personally. And honestly, if we don't do something about it soon, it's going to affect us in a big way. Dan says, I've never been socially acceptable. It's true, but I accept you. We're already there, Mick. We live in a dystopia. Do we live in a dystopia? Are we there? Are we 100% there, do you think? I don't know. I don't know that I agree that we're in a dystopia, but I don't disagree that we're headed for one. And maybe you're right. You're a smarter man than I, Dan. But I want to thank everybody for watching and listening to my Let Me Micksplain this week about cancellation. Just sort of a vent for me. I'm going to move on to the last topic, but guys, if you're watching this as a clip, go check out the full episode over on the Scene Snobs Podcast. It's everywhere. It's on, you know where it is. We're in the middle of it, but so if you're watching as a clip, go back and do that. Let's get to our last segment tonight. How's that sound?